And you are listening to the Motherhood Unstressed podcast, and I'm your host, Liz Carlisle. Welcome back. Welcome to a fresh week. I hope you had a fabulous weekend, and I am so excited to be beginning your week with my guest today. His name is Rory Gardiner. He's a Canadian country music star. He is a stand-up comedian and a TEDx speaker, and that's actually how I met him. Back in May in Colorado Springs. We were both there to give our TED Talks. And I guess I officially met him. He doesn't really know this, but I met him. He was on a training call with his coach for TED right before me, and I kind of patched in early. And I just kind of observed him working through the process. And, you know, when you do a TED Talk, there's a lot of back and forth and coaching and a lot of fine-tuning. And so he just had this really dry sense of humor. And I was thinking, who is this guy? What is going on? And then, you know, when you do a TED Talk, it's very intense and your nerves are high, emotions are high, and you just really want to do the best job you can. And he is someone who made that experience just so fun and just was having like everyone laughing all the time. So I'm really just grateful to have met him. And that's truly what he does in his work. He began as a musician, but then it kind of evolved into stand-up comedy. He would talk in between music sets, and he would have more fun doing that. And then it kind of just expanded his speaking career. And really the crux of what kind of blew him up in the speaking world was his house was actually hit by a tornado, and he made this insanely funny YouTube video, and I've linked it in the show notes for you. And from there, he really fine-tuned his message of finding humor through adversity. And so now a lot of mental health organizations are reaching out to him, having him speak to their people. And it's really all about turning a really terrible situation and processing it in a healthy way. So that's kind of what he talks a lot about. And I just find that so powerful and really, at the end of the day, healing, which is what this show is all about. So enjoy my conversation with Rory Gardiner. I hope you get a lot out of it. If you love it, please share it with a friend. He's got so many moments in here where he's just cracking me up. So I hope you enjoy that as well, because that's just who he is as a person. I don't think he has a turn-off valve on that. So enjoy my conversation. Please share it with a friend. Please leave us a review if you haven't already. And yeah, I've linked all of his amazing content in the show notes. So definitely go check that out. This episode is sponsored by Motherhood Unstressed CBD. You can pick up your organic, third-party tested CBD in stores around the country or at motherhoodunstressed.com. Well, hello, Rory. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here. It's good to see you again after the TEDx talk, and I've just been following everything that you've been doing. It's been amazing. You've been doing so much. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. So what's been going on lately with you? It's
Other than the frustrating audio issues is what you're saying?
Right.
But you called me a perfectionist a second ago. It's not that I'm a perfectionist, and it's just like, I know that it's easy. I spent a long part of my life trying to deal with this sort of thing. And like, I guess as a musician, like you ever like seen a concert? Like, let's say imagine you went to like a stadium and to see your favorite Backstreet Boy concert. I don't know who you're into, but you know, let's just say you're in, and then, you know, it was because there's some little thing with the speakers that you just were not satisfied with. And then it was like a waste of money. I don't know.
I've never been to something like that, but yeah, I could imagine that would be frustrating. But that kind of like brings me to my first question is, you know, you are a performer, you've been performing for years. How did you know that, you know, being in a creative career was going to be your path? Because so many people don't go that way, because it is so, you know, it's like the 1% who are successful and can actually make a living doing that. So take us back to, you know, the beginning.
Well, I think it was just to gain approval, to be honest with you. In school, I'd be disruptive to gain approval of my peers. And then somewhere along the line, I guess my dad was a musician, so I let's gain his approval now. So we started down the music path. And then once I started to get paid for it, I'm like, well, maybe I could just make a career the rest of my life gaining people's approval. And here we are. Now I'm still seeking approval, and I've been doing it for 20 years.
Wow, 20 years. So tell us some of like the highlights of your career, because it is so like epic, like the people that you've performed with, you know, you've been nominated for some things. I mean, so talk to us about some of the highlights in your career that really stand out.
The biggest one was like, I'm a big fan of Keith Urban, so I got to open for him a couple years ago, and that was cool. And then, so I'm writing songs, and it's going well. It was therapeutic at first, and then I love writing songs and stuff like that. And then a couple of them got into commercials with like one was like Kevin Nealon and Arnold Palmer, and it was funny filming that one because I'm in like Kevin Nealon's trailer. I got my feet up, ice cold drink in my hand. I'm like, this is great, Kevin. I was watching you on Saturday Night Live when I was a kid. Like, do you have any advice for an up and coming entertainer? He looks at me straight in the eye and says something I'll never forget. He's like, how did you get in here? You can have a lot of successes, but it's at the end of the day, I don't know. I just swear to God, it doesn't fulfill me. I have friends and colleagues who just love to write songs, love to do that whole thing. And it just, for me, I got to a point somewhere 10 years ago where I was playing these theater shows and I couldn't wait for the song to end so that I could talk in between songs to the audience and tell jokes and get laughs. And I was like, maybe that's a sign that I should be talking instead of musicking. And so that's when I started the stand-up comedy thing, and now that's kind of taken over my life. So
yeah, and that's pretty amazing because it is something that's so different than standing up and singing songs and writing songs. I mean, you're still doing that. So for someone who's thinking about doing a massive career change like that, I mean, I guess you're still on stage, but how does one even go about doing that and not feel like you're a fraud or like, what am I even doing here?
Well, it's a transition, so it's not as if you can just replace one income with the other. So you have to do it both, obviously, in order to not live on the street. But it's a hard pill to swallow for some people. Like if you've already built an audience under one platform, then there's times where like I'll post a funny sketch to YouTube or whatever, and then music fans would be like, this is hilarious, but where's a song? Like, right. This is why I'm following you. And so, I don't know, you have to get used to whatever it is I'm producing at the time, because I can't, I try to create from an authentic place. And if I'm not in the mood to create a country song about a tailgate or some pickup truck, I don't even own a pickup truck. Like that's just the way the country music went. And that's why I'm taking a backseat to that and trying to go to the comedy route.
And have you found that, once you were really living from an authentic place that, the gigs showed up, you were winning comedy competitions? I mean, that's insane for someone who's really just starting out.
Well, I'm starting out. I mean, I have been doing it for like 7 years now. So, I mean, it feels like it just yesterday, but it's still, I guess, technically early. Being authentic, I did write a bunch of albums for country music that were about tailgates and short shorts and stuff like that. And just because I thought that's what people wanted to hear, like radio hits. And apparently I can't write a radio hit because I never had one. They all wind up in commercials with dead golfers from Saturday Night Live when I'm live. So I finally wrote an album in 2018 called Be You, which is like all songs that I wanted to hear, all the ones that I didn't care what anyone thought. I just wrote about what I was going through. And that was the first one that won a CCMA award.
Wow, that's amazing. So how did that feel? I mean, to finally be writing the songs that you wanted to write, not knowing if anyone would actually resonate with them, and then it doing so well. How did that feel like?
It sucked because on first case, I was like, why did I waste my time for all those years writing songs for other people? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, why did this success have to happen now when I'm transitioning into comedy? So I feel grateful, but where were you 10 years ago? Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you have to make a choice here? Like do or die with either one?
No, I still do both. I'm just kidding. So like this weekend, I have a Friday night is a music gig. So we go play songs for people who want to dance and try to get laid. And on Saturday, we have a comedy gig. So people who need a good laugh. And the comedy gigs are they're just where I am right now in my creative space. So I want to write that kind of thing. And in the music space, I have a bunch of country records. I have 3 kids albums, and they're like, why are you writing children's music? Like, you know what I mean? Like they want to hear the country stuff. And I'm like, well, I have 2 children. So this is where my headspace is. My entire life is Sesame Street and Paw Patrol. So this is the kind of music I write right now. And so I can't fake it. There's a lot of people who can fake it, and those are way more talented people than I am.
I don't know if it's a talent thing. I think it's just you are not someone who can be inauthentic with anything. I mean,
I'm a terrible liar.
Right. Like everything that comes out of your mouth is what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And I think a lot of people love that. A lot of people don't love that.
To my detriment sometimes, yeah.
Right. But talk to us a little bit about the new kids album that's coming out. Obviously it's for children. What kind of songs are on there? Is it all country, or like what's an example of a song that's on that album?
It's all empowerment. So like I've thought about writing songs for like, one is like, oh, what am I going to wear today? And then I couldn't possibly put it on. I instead I was more of the first song is called Stronger. It's just about failing, and these failures make you stronger. Just things that you and I may know or take for granted, but kids don't necessarily know this. So
that's awesome.
There's that one. There's another track called Don't Ever Change. So the whole theme of this is if you're lucky enough to be different, you know, Megan's got curly hair, this guy's got this and that. If you're lucky enough to be different, you know, you're unique. Don't change. Have
you tested out all the songs on your kids? Do they like them?
They prefer Bruno Mars.
But no, I guess you had some other people singing with you on the album. Who are they? Like, what's their story?
They, so I did a cover of Baby Shark on this thing. And so I'm singing it in a country version. So it's like, so I'm singing in my voice, like Baby Shark. So after we were done, it sounded gross. It's like, who is this guy with this deep voice singing this? So I hired a couple of kids to come out and put like another track on top of me. So it sounds a little more playful,
more kid friendly.
Right. Yeah. So they were there, they did that. And they also have a little bit of acting background. So I wrote a sketch, like a nighttime negotiation sketch. We just kind of doing that whole routine. And it was just fun. Again, no one puts sketches on albums, but again, we're trying to be authentic, and this is what we're doing.
Well, and I think too, like sketches and obviously video it's really worked for you in the past, because I feel like that's how we met at TEDx. You had this viral YouTube video about a tornado that went through your neighborhood, completely destroyed your house. And then you kind of put this video up that was funny about it, and it just kind of blew up. So talk to us a little bit about that and the role that videos had in really, I mean, because you've had a storied career, but it's just taken this totally viral, different route.
The video, so, okay, my little background since, so my house got hit with the tornado in 2018. So we just had the year anniversary a few weeks ago, and no one really expects that to happen. Like I'm from Ottawa, we don't get tornadoes. And so we ignored all the warnings on our phones that a tornado was coming. And I'm in the living room with the kids having pizza. My neighbor's pool ends in the yard. Okay. And so at this point, I realized I should probably put on some pants. Okay. And so we see trees being uprooted, panic sets in. I grab my favorite kid. We head down to the basement, and roof flies off. The kid's swing set disappears, but they don't care because now they have a new pool. So the whole thing lasted 20 seconds, and wow. Popped our heads up. We live in a neighborhood called Arlington Woods, but all the trees are gone now. We call it Arlington Stumps. So it's just the following day. There's no road access or anything like that. So everyone's panicking, trying to get a hold of insurance, trying to get a hold of contractors, but everyone is monopolized because everyone needs help at the same time. And so instead of panicking, what I did was basically grabbed a camera and started filming, or a phone, I guess, and started just filming funny commentary, like a home makeover parody of my house. Like we had no roof. So I was like, oh, here's my new skylight. And, just trying to, show people around my treehouse, I guess. So
Yeah, and it's hilarious. Listener, you should definitely go check it out. So yeah, I mean, that really blew up. Did you expect it to blow up the way it did?
No, I just sent it to my neighbors to create a laugh. The media was pouring out just trauma, like just trying to scare the city. So I released this thing just to get a laugh, and apparently got shared amongst a lot of the media and people that resonated with it. So it hit like 10,000 views like in the first day, and then it spoke to people in a way that I didn't anticipate. I basically just recorded it because that's what I do. I lack coping skills or sympathy. I don't know. So I was basically I'm basically band-aiding my vulnerability at this point. Well, I can't show people that I'm scared and emotional. So I'm just going to make some jokes about it. And that's basically how I've come to realize now that I've been conditioned to do that as a creative person. Like anything good or bad that's ever happened to me in my life, it has always been translated into a song or a joke, whether it's heartbreak or whether it's anything. So when this happened, my instinct just went to, let's make a joke about it. And how the TikTok thing came around, they said, hey, this is a great way of using humor to overcome adversity. I was like, I guess that's what I'm doing. I didn't realize it at the time, but as I dug deeper, that's totally what was happening.
Yeah, once that self-awareness came in. But I think that's really powerful what you just said, because so many, especially men, especially fathers, who don't know how to necessarily process real emotion, deep emotion, because that's been our culture, Canadian and American culture, to kind of squash it down, especially if you're a male. I mean, I'm a mom of 2 boys, so I'm always like, hey, it's okay to cry. It's okay to express, what you're feeling. What are you feeling? Because a lot of times people don't even know. Like we have 5 emotions that we can point to, but there's so many more. So I think that the way that you're able to process that and then even be open about this is what I was doing and I didn't even realize that, I think that that's really expanding for a lot of people, especially people listening right now, who may have husbands or partners who don't necessarily know how to process. Because when you don't process, we all know you get sick and you're miserable and you don't even really know why. So kudos to you for being able to do that from a young age.
Again, it was instinctual. It wasn't something I did on purpose. It was, with the kids around, you're putting on a brave face at this point. If they see their dad panicking and freaking out, and they'll freak out. So it's more of, I was putting on a brave face for them, and this is what came of it.
And now it's been a year, and is everything pretty much back to normal? And
everything's back to
back
exactly.
in the house.
Back in the house, and the interior's brand new. The exterior looks conveniently like it got hit with a tornado. So we're still working that out, but it's kind of grown from there. So this simple thing we did a year ago has, and then after the TED Talk, but I don't know if I told you that people in the mental health field are starting to share this thing, and I'll go to different cities to play music or tell jokes, and I'll have strangers coming up and I really enjoyed your talk. I'm like, really? You don't even know. This is great. Strangers are seeing this thing, and probably 9 times out of 10, it's someone that works in the mental health field. It's like, yeah, someone showed this at one of our conventions or our events to show an example of what they call sublimation. So what I did in the video is I basically took a bad situation and I coped with it in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. And that's apparently what they call sublimation. And it was a great example of doing that. And, a lot of neighbors in that situation actually turned to alcohol. It was a rough few months for them. So maybe it's because I'm vain and I just didn't want to get a beer belly. I just decided to tell jokes instead. I don't know. So we're working with that now, these new discoveries as things happen.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then talk to us about, you've been going into schools, like elementary schools and things like that. Is it, again, still the same theme of, turning a negative situation into a positive, or is it more music, or what are you doing in the schools?
When I do elementary schools, it's basically, it was tornado talk. It was just, I'd have a slideshow of, this is some of the damage that happened. This is what a tornado is. It's no big deal. Just, how we coped with it, and just very kid friendly stuff. And then we end it with music and playing around and have a lot of fun. But in high schools, it gets a little more serious when we talk about everything from vulnerability to self-esteem and how to deal with those sort of things.
Do you realize, I mean, you're in like the personal development space now. You go from country music to comedy, and now you're truly changing lives for the better. Do you think, what do you think about that? Did you ever see yourself in this realm?
I've always been, I mean, that's all I read is nonfiction. So I really enjoy this kind of thing. And so I feel like if I'm looking at my own situation, I'm not the type of person you'd want to take advice from. I don't know. I'm just kind of a goof. I'm a weirdo dad that embarrasses children. You know what I mean? So if I can inspire people through my talent, so by telling jokes or music, that's going to be my gift. Because I can't get up on stage and just preach to people. It's just not my personality. People won't take me seriously, but if I could do it and shelter it in an entertaining way, it's hilarious how my comedy has transformed in the last year. Like I could kill a room. Let's say we're telling jokes for 20 minutes. There'll be a joke, and then all of a sudden for 30 seconds, there'll be like some sort of like a nugget of inspiration. It's like, yeah, and this is what we did and blah, blah, blah. And then like you can hear a pin drop because they're all hanging on every word. But then we release the tension again with another joke. And then we just pinpoint. So by the end of it, they've heard basically a TED talk, not realizing it, but throughout they've been entertained the entire time, and they'll probably remember my set versus the guy that went on after me talking about his genitals or whatever.
And they'll feel better about themselves too.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's so. I totally understand what you're saying, because like even for me to get up and talk about what I talk about, which is self-care and self-love and things like that, it has to come from a place of authenticity. And again, like people don't want to be preached to, especially from someone who's like younger and not, with no PhD and things like that. So yeah, you're right. You have to be entertaining, to be yourself, I think is the golden area to be in. So what would you say for someone who wants to do what you're doing, who wants to maybe, get into music professionally, make it a living out of that, or maybe wants to stand on the comedy stage? I mean, what would be your best advice for them?
First of all, just I have two points there. So the first one is just do it. You can't. I mean, there's a lot of people who research everything and try to like, well, how do I? Where do I stand when I'm telling a joke? How do I look cool when I'm trying to sing a song or whatever? You basically have to embody it in order to actually make it part of your life. I remember when I first started doing comedy, I go up once a month and I'd have some fresh jokes ready to go. But every time I go up, I'd be terrified because it's terrifying, to be honest with you. And so I had a friend who just said, we'll stop being a hobbyist and take it seriously. So I could, good point. So I go up weekly and just try new stuff every week. Sometimes I'd fail, sometimes I wouldn't, but you just become completely resilient and thick-skinned after week of doing it. And then when you're doing it weekly, you're not nervous anymore. Monthly, you were. And so if you just continuously do it, you embody it. So let's just say this tornado thing happened 5 years ago. None of this, I don't think we'd be here right now talking about it, because I wouldn't have been in the right comedy. I wouldn't have that skill set.
That muscle.
Yeah. And like a year prior to filming that funny tornado video, I had been writing and filming sketches anyways. So I was just conditioned to grab a camera and just talk. So it just, what do they say? What's that saying? It's like luck comes to those who are prepared or something of that. Anyway, I wouldn't have been prepared 5 years ago for it. So I'm just grateful that I got hit with the tornado now instead of when I was unprepared.
Divine timing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So you have a lot going on. You're touring, you're going, you're doing a lot of shows, you're doing a lot of music. What do you think this next year is going to be holding for you? What do you really want to see happen?
So I wanted to leverage the speaking a little bit more. I'm getting all these unique opportunities. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention, because you said, what do you recommend for people trying to get into this? And so the authenticity thing comes in again. So I'm so because there's so many mental health people are really resonating with my message, I started to target conventions and events that are based around trauma or PTSD and things like that. And so a lot of people, they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then there's a big group, and they're like, well, most of our speakers are PhDs talking about their research and all this sort of thing. So then I'm like, that's cool. But my reply is, I'm more of an entertaining break amongst all these boring doctor talks. So consider that. And then maybe I can play music for your networking event after the session's finished to enhance all the collaboration. They're like, let me get back to you. So, point is, there's room for everyone in anything, even if you're some weirdo from Canada who's just in a room full of doctors. You have value in any space, as long as you're just being yourself.
I love that. I love that so much, because I think it's so true. And so many people don't feel like they're ready enough, or they're not, prepared enough maybe, but I just love that line so much. That's beautiful. Okay. So we are to the point in the interview where I have some rapid fire questions. There's 3. Are you ready?
Go.
A true performer is
authentic.
I'm grateful for.
Tornadoes hitting me at the appropriate time.
And what's something that you've learned in life that you wish someone would have told you earlier on?
Create from an authentic place and stop writing songs about pickup trucks and tailgates and hillbillies.
I love it. I love it. And do you have any really big takeaways that you want to leave with the listener today? Something that's really been on your mind lately?
I mean, there's specifically, I based on everything we've talked about today, I mean, there's possibly nuggets that you could take away. Sublimation would be a good one. I mean, if anything's happening to you, find a healthy way to cope with it instead of going down the other path. I have a band member. I played a show on the weekend that I haven't seen him in a month since his mom's funeral, which was a month ago. And he shows up to the gig on Saturday, notably fatter. And I'm like, what has happened to you? And anyway, he's been coping with hamburgers. And I'm like, that's unfortunate, but why don't you cope with a gym membership or something? Anyway, he just says he prefers eating over working out, which is everyone's case. So I'm like, I'll tell you why don't we you join my kickboxing gym? You know what I mean? You'll have accountability. There's a lot of people there. I'll be there. And it's more of a group thing as opposed to just lifting a dumbbell. And no one likes doing that. And so you could just see, when you're doing something like that, when you embody that environment, whether it's kickboxing or CrossFit or group fitness or whatever, now you're in a room full of healthy people. You're surrounding yourselves by other people who aren't eating burgers every day. They're going to go home and eat kale or whatever they do. So all we have to, I'm working on him.
No, I think that's really beautiful. That's really powerful. And sublimation is a new word that I learned today that I will definitely be learning more about, because I think it's really
fantastic.
Healing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then in that nugget is, again, embodying whatever you're doing. You can't just go to the gym once a week and lift weights and say you did it for the day. It's like you're literally step in and make it part of your lifestyle.
I love that too, because it's like, yeah, are you a hobbyist or are you all in on your life? I love that. Mm-hmm. That's something like I never really, I don't think went full in with anything, like I always just kind of held back with everything. So that's a nugget that I'll definitely take away from this talk.
Well, that's when you first met, that's what you told me. It's like last week was your last day as a government employee. And then you decided I'm going all in on being a creative individual. And here we are today.
I know, it's fabulous. Okay, so where can everyone find out more about you? Where can they pick up the album, the kids album, which I can't wait? Tell us all the things.
Kids album comes out November 4th, and that's available on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever music is found. And you can hear the rest of my stuff on, I don't know, go to find me on social media, Instagram, Rory Gardiner, music, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go see all my weird sketches on YouTube.
See you in person because you're traveling a ton. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. I got so much out of this. I know in my heart the listener did too. So thank you. Thanks
for having me.
You have been listening to the Motherhood Unstressed podcast, and I'm your host, Liz Carlisle. If you found any kind of value out of this conversation today, please share us on your Instagram stories, tag us at Motherhood Unstressed, and hit those 5 stars. It literally takes 5 seconds to do that, and you will feel so good for giving back to the show if we have given anything to you. Have a great week. Love you guys.